Okay, good evening, our fans from around the world. The Imola Grand Prix, Emiliano Romana, as it's called, has come and gone. And it's as usual again, same old same, Max Verstappen. Just beating Lando Norris by the fraction of a second. What are your thoughts on this performance, Biodo Manjoko? With me this evening is Biodo. You are very welcome to the show.
Thank you for following me. Thanks for having me, and good evening, listeners and viewers.
So, your thoughts on another very, very extremely close one. I would say a driving skill at the end of the day. Lando Norris ran Max Verstappen really, really very close. What are your thoughts on yet another win for Max Verstappen at the Italian Grand Prix?
Thank you, Afolabi. Like we expected and we projected, it was quite an interesting race. We knew it was going to be close, due to the upgrades that various teams were coming into the race. And we're slightly disappointed with, I think, a couple of teams, for instance, Ferrari, which we had high hopes of in terms of pace performance, and we saw that they struggled with the straight line speed in the race. And there's no doubt that that race was won. Red Bull won that race based on the skill of Max Verstappen, and he showed why he's the three-time world champion. He was able to hold his nerves and control the pace and not overstrain the car too much, and also maintain the gap and the pace behind those chasing him. The start was fantastic. It was a fantastic start from Max. Um, was spot on in terms of reaction time. Lando's reaction time also from P2 position was also good. But like we said in Imola, it's quite difficult to overtake during the race, and we saw that happen during the race. Overtaking was quite challenging, and we saw the undercut come into play in terms of people who pit earlier tend to end up coming out in front ahead of the cars behind them. So it was quite astonishing that the race went the way it went. I want one thing that Formula One enthusiasts will be happy about was that the margin of lead was not way too much in the sense of previous races when you see Max leading with
Yes,
over
it
15 seconds.
wasn't too
Max
one-sided. It was
leading,
a lot
yeah,
closer.
you see Max leading with over a pit stop lap, and he won't lap and go for the fastest lap of the race. So it was quite interesting. We saw Lando pushing, and if that race had extra 2 laps, I think Lando would have caught up to Max. But I think where they got it wrong was in the area of when they encouraged him to start pushing. So the lap and I'm sure the statisticians and the simulator projection would have showed that he could have caught up to Max. But the problem was that Max was not increasing his speed and matching his own time for time. So that they could not catch up. But it was quite interesting. I think one important thing was I was quite happy with Yuki Tsunoda, that the RB team, also finishing in P7 in the race. That's a fantastic result for the RB team, and Alpine also scoring the final points of the race in 10th place. Esteban Ocon, that was also a very good achievement for Alpine coming into the race. Alonso also did quite well from back of the grid to finish in P9. That was another very fantastic performance from Fernando Alonso, and his teammate Lance Stroll, who was actually racing in P7 all through the race, unfortunately couldn't get in the points at the race. I think Mercedes also, Hamilton also did very well finishing in P6, but the truth is the Mercedes and McLaren, they are way below the pecking order in terms of where McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull is. So they are the next line item of team before every other team in the floor.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at McLaren, I don't know, whatever it is they did in Miami that has given them an edge. I don't know what upgrades they did this time around, but their drivers, particularly Norris, seems to be driving so well this season. He's been making first to five finishes since the beginning of the year. Let's talk about tire management and their race strategy. How did it help him to get an edge in this particular race?
Yeah, I think coming into the upgrades in Miami, we saw McLaren coming with one of the first big upgraded teams into the race, and some of the issues that they were trying to solve in the upgrade is to cope tire degradation. So I think they kind of achieved that if you see what happened in Miami and what happened in Imola over the weekend, so that some of the upgrades have actually tackled some of those problems that they were having. Although you cannot solve the issue of tire management totally, but you can at least reduce it to an extent where it does not wear out quickly during the race. I think from the compound, the Pirelli supplies the teams. You know, the Pirelli tire is quite very soft. So there are different compounds, soft, hard, medium. And I think what they've been able to do is, due to several changes and upgrades they've made, it has helped improve the longevity of the tire. And it's quite impressive that McLaren have been able to achieve that. I see them pushing Red Bull further into the season in terms of giving Red Bull more of a headache. And I like what happened in Imola. I think they just need to get strategy a bit better, and they can push Red Bull to the limit. I think one thing that did not quite help McLaren was that they needed to gamble, they needed to risk and take the first pit stop and take the undercut and risk the undercut. But I know what they were trying to achieve was to pit second and be able to see if they will have um a more they will have a more they wanted Red Bull to pit first so that Red Bull would have weared their tire a bit more and they will have more race pace towards the end of the race. But unfortunately, that risk did not work for them. But if they had pit early and tried the undercut and gain track position. One thing I say in Formula One, having track position is quite important than you thinking you can overtake someone on the track. Having track position is quite important because you're able to defend and hold what you have. But once you're trying to overtake someone on track, it's always quite challenging and quite difficult.
Especially at a track like Imola, it can be very,
Yeah,
very challenging. Yes.
yeah.
Um, but it wasn't as plain sailing for Oscar Piastri, the drive partner of Lando Norris. What are your thoughts about his own performance? What was his position? I think he finished. Uh, let me just confirm.
Okay. Yeah. I think Piastri was quite. We saw his performance in qualifying. He was quite good. I'm just trying to recall what position he finished
Wait,
in the
okay.
race. I'm not. I just can't recall now. Okay, it was P4. He finished
Before,
P4.
okay.
So yeah.
Okay.
So we know that he qualified P2 in qualifying, and due to the grid penalty that he was given for obstructing the half team, he was handed a
But was
three-place grid penalty.
penalized.
Yes, he was handed a three-place grid penalty in qualifying. So he started the race P5. But at the end of the race, he finished in P4, which was quite impressive from the
Yes,
Aussies. It's just the
considering it
second
started
season.
P5.
Yeah. Considering this is the second full season in Formula One, he has been superb. I know holding Carlos Sainz behind him was quite a good achievement, and also giving him a well over 8 second lead is quite astonishing. I think Piastri has been tremendous for McLaren, and I like the way that both McLaren drivers keep scoring huge double points
Points,
racing race out,
yes.
actually giving them a call and a shout out for the Constructors' Championship because many people are not seeing it. But the gap in the Constructors' Championship is gradually closing in terms of the Ferrari both
Yes, it's
scoring the points.
narrowing to Red Bull. Yeah.
Yeah, it's narrowing to Red Bull, and Red Bull needs to get Checo Perez performing. Perez needs to sit up and start performing because all the points cannot just be coming from Max Verstappen alone. He needs his teammates to also squeeze in a couple of points in the season. But not to take anything from Piastri, phenomenal drive in the race. P4, fantastic. I'm sure you'll be happy with that, knowing some of the challenges that he faced during the race.
Outside the top five, Yuki Tsunoda, what do you think of Yuki Tsunoda's performance in the race? And I'm just
Yeah, I
wondering
think
why is it not being talked of by one of the top teams?
yes, I think the way the Red Bull the way the Red Bull structure works is most times you see when they used to be Toro Rosso and now they're RB team. I think much we talked about Yuki Tsunoda. They tend to see when Max Verstappen was also in the junior Red Bull team, then Toro Rosso, he was brought from there to Red Bull senior team. So it's possible that Yuki Tsunoda is performing wonderfully and could get a shout in Checo Perez seat. Many people might not be speaking who about the Japanese wonderkid, but maybe because his media presence is not so loud and he doesn't really have that je ne sais quoi, like they say in France, to amplify what he does. But we all know that he's a very tremendous driver, skillful driver, and I know one day he's going to move to a big team. It's just a matter of time.
Yes. Yeah, then let's talk about Aston and Williams, the mid-block teams. What struggles did Aston and Williams face, and how did their performance compare to expectations? Considering Imola was a circuit where everybody expected one upgrade or the other. Aston and Williams.
Yeah, I think for Aston Martin, I think Stroll was quite good. He held his own. He was able to hold for P9. And Williams, for the Williams, I think they keep struggling. Alex Albon was not able to finish the race. We also saw Logan Sargent also finishing in P17, a lap down. So it's quite challenging that the Williams, they are actually one of the weakest team in terms of infrastructure in Formula One this season. I see them struggling and struggling and struggling throughout the end of the season. I don't think we can see any positives from the Williams things. But for Aston Martin, definitely there are some positives. Lance Stroll finished P9, was able to get the points. I think Alonso also had a couple of challenges in terms of the getting out the race pace out of the car. But eventually, I think Aston Martin just needs to get a couple of things right to improve the pace they had towards the end of last season and early this season. But I think they're kind of struggling now in the middle of the pack. You see teams like Haas and RB, as well as Alpine, also now doing well and improving in terms of performance. And we are now seeing Aston Martin struggle, which we expect Aston Martin to be at the level where Mercedes currently is. We all know Mercedes is not where they want to be, but they are struggling.
For
But
sure.
we, some of
Absolutely.
us, that yeah, some of our assumptions is that Aston Martin should be where Mercedes is or in and around where Mercedes is, but we tend to see them struggle now. So they need to get their acts right on track and try and see how they can improve the performance of the car going throughout the rest of the season.
It's even Williams that's a bit surprising to me. Back in the 90s, in the days of legends like Michael Schumacher and Ayrton Senna, Williams was a force to reckon with as a team. It shows how further back they've gone over the years. You know, that they're not so so strong anymore. Are you there? Yoro? Yoro? Okay,
Uh,
I think it was
hello?
a network. So what I was saying, are you there? Can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I'm here.
Yeah, I was saying that back in the 90s,
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. I was saying back in the 90s, in
Yeah.
the days of the likes of Michael Schumacher and
Okay.
Ayrton Senna, Williams was a team to reckon with. It's like they've gone so far behind over the years, and they are not so much of a force anymore. What could be the reason for this? Is it funding? Is it, I don't know, is it the quality of the drivers? Is it their team, their technical team, or what could be the reason really? Because I can remember
Yeah.
in 94 when Senna died on this same circuit, he was driving for Williams.
Yeah. So I think Formula One thing about Formula One is it's a very it's a very expensive sport. For you to even play, for you to even be a driver in Formula One, it costs a huge amount of money for you to go through the academy, for you to go through Formula 4, Formula 3, Formula 2 before you come to Formula One. So it's a very expensive sport. It's not a sport like football that maybe you don't even have fund to even buy a jersey or a boot or
Or
something. But
boots.
based on develop and improve and work. Yeah. And one thing that we've seen with some of the dominant teams over the years in Formula One is that there's decline to see this based on funding. And once the position you finish in the constructors over the years determines the amount of funds the FIA give you ahead of the following season. So since Williams' position has kind of depreciated over the last couple of years, the funding to put back into the team has gradually reduced, and that's why they are suffering. One of the things that could
Affected
benefit
their
them is if they could,
performance.
could get a new if they can get a new investor or a new investment that's ready to pump in money into the team to help with development around the research and development and improving the engine and performance of the car, yes. But as of now, Williams as a team and the current owner is not ready to do that, and they don't have those funding. So that's why we see them struggle with what they are facing. And I think so. There was sometime this season where they had to even drive only one car. I think it was Alex Albon
Albion.
now asked Logan Sargent to release his car for Alex Albon to drive because they could not afford to change one part of the vehicle, which was quite very expensive. So that shows you the financial issues that Williams is currently facing within the team. Thank you.
I guess that's where Andrew Newey was there a couple of years ago. I guess it's because of the cash too that he probably left and went to a better team. Another big
Yeah.
surprise in this Imola is Ferrari. They must be reeling. The expectations for Imola was huge. Seeing McLaren, displaying that kind of performance, they must be really beating themselves internally. How do you think Ferrari will feel, considering that they felt they could really close the gap at this Imola Grand Prix? Ferrari. Bjorn, are you there? Bjorn, Bjorn, are you there? Hello, Bjorn. Bjorn, are you back? Are
Yeah,
you
hello, I
back?
can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay. So I
Yeah,
was
I'm
talking
back. I
about
don't know
Ferrari. I
what's wrong
said
with the
Ferrari's expectations were so high
yeah.
going into Imola. They must be really feeling bad about their performance at Imola. What do you think would be their thoughts now, especially McLaren displaying such an impressive performance ahead of them?
Yeah, I think um I want to
I think
be
Leclerc finished third.
I
I
like
don't know
Ferrari.
what position Sainz finished.
Sainz finished fifth behind Piastri. And
Oh,
I
fifth.
want to be very I want to be I wanted to be harsh with Ferrari, but I want to take a lean position. I think let me say Ferrari has been very um good. I would say the upgrade they came into the race was quite interesting, was quite good. I think they are happy with the data and the feedback from the simulators and what they've been able to gather. I think for the race in Imola, I think they'll be quite disappointed that they were not able to perform better than they did. I think their home race is one race that each team holds as a bragging right in terms of being able to win your home race.
On
It's a
home
bragging
soil.
right. We see Red Bull do that in Austria. When they go to Austria on home soil, they don't joke with anybody. Red Bull tries to win in home soil. Same thing in with Mercedes when they used to race in Germany at one point, but now they use Silverstone as their home race because of Hamilton. So for Ferrari, I think they will be quite disappointed that they were not able to perform better than they did. But I think the positives they should take out of the race is they have the pace. What they just have to work on is the stabilization and the balance of the car and synchronization so that they can get the best performance out of the car. I think those are just the positive thing for them heading into Monaco.
Oh, I see. A lot was expected from Ferrari. Interesting.
Hello?
Hello, yes, I'm with you.
Hello?
Yes, I'm with you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so do you expect any surprises in Monaco? I think Monaco is this weekend. Do you expect any surprises? Max Verstappen seems not to be relenting on his performances. Are you there, Bjorn?
Yes, I'm here. I think
Yes,
I was just trying to reduce.
I said Max Verstappen seems not to be relaxing on his exploits. He made history again, 8 consecutive poles, equaling or mirroring Senna's record, and he continues to. If he continues on this trajectory, there's a very good likelihood of him scrapping all of Senna's record, considering the fact that Senna's life was cut short at such a young age. I think it was 34, 35. If his career goes beyond that, he might likely, because a lot of Argentina's records are still unbroken. But he did very well. What do you foresee in Monaco? Will it be Verstappen
Yeah,
again? Will
okay, thank you. I think Monaco will be quite interesting. It's one of, I don't know, many Formula One fans love the Monaco track. I'm not a fan of the Monaco track because overtaking is impossible. Crashes are very, the percentage of crashing with another driver is way higher than any other circuit. Um,
uh,
I just, I'm not a fan of Monaco to say I feel it's too boring and overtaking is always quite challenging. But let's see how the race will go. But I know Red Bull. I know Red Bull will not. I have said I'm not going to doubt Red Bull again to the end of this season. I know Red Bull will definitely perform well in Monaco. Max definitely will deliver the goods again in Monaco. I think McLaren also. I think with the pace they are showing, there will be a serious threat in Monaco, and Red Bull should not rest on their laurels. It's going to be a quite interesting weekend, and let's see how the teams will do in free practice and ahead of qualifying. But quite an interesting circuit. Let's see how the weekend will be.
and the challenge is even making it more difficult and more stiff for Red Bull because they have McLaren on their shoulders. It's not just Ferrari now; it's
Yeah,
McLaren
yeah.
on their shoulders. So
Shoulders,
the
yeah.
McLaren is driving really well. So what does this portend for our friends in in Mercedes, Russell and Hamilton? Hamilton seems to
Exactly.
still be confused. He doesn't seem to be focused. Maybe it's because he's moving to Ferrari. His focus this season has just maybe or maybe it's the car anyway because he keeps complaining about the W15 in Mercedes. What is does the future hold as we get to the midpoint of the season for the Mercedes team?
I think for the Mercedes team, the W15 is not impressive. I see no difference between the W15 and the W14 last season. I think one positive thing Hamilton fans should take is Hamilton always qualifies very poorly with the W15, but he performs well in race day. He tends to improve his race positive we can take from Hamilton, knowing that he's a fighter and he'll give everything out on race day. Um, but for Mercedes as a whole, I think um, this is where they are this season. I see Mercedes finishing fourth in the Constructors' Championship. I think that's one. I have that in the bag already. Nothing will change for Mercedes. They will finish fourth in the Constructors' Championship behind Ferrari and McLaren and Red Bull. So definitely that position is sealed for them.
For
Um,
them.
I think what they should just be looking forward to doing is building towards next season. They should just start thinking of how they can build next season and improve the car next season. And I don't know, I can't recall the designer of the W15's name currently, but I think they need to get back to the drawing board ASAP. I think for people like me that are Mercedes fans, they are currently killing my hope in terms of enthusiasm and seeing what Mercedes can offer
Yeah,
ahead
there
of
used to
next
be
season. But I think
there used to
with
be
Hamilton going to Ferrari, we already know that that is a done deal.
oh yeah, yeah. It's going to be replacing Sainz, I guess.
Yeah, so we know Hamilton is going to Ferrari, and that is a done deal. 25 in Ferrari. Scuderia de Ferrari.
Yeah. So another talking point that I wanted to discuss with you was Sergio Perez, Max's driving team. P8 was rather poor, considering that he's been Verstappen's shadow all through the season so far. What could have been the cause? At least you'd have expected a top five finish for Sergio Perez.
Yes, I think that just shows the difference between the drivers, and many people do not tend to
And I think
believe
they
that
drive the
drivers
same car. They drive the same car, I guess.
they drive the same car. Many people do not believe that the driver has a say in the performance of the car. Many people believe it's the car that is doing all the work, but this clearly shows you that the role of the driver is quite important, and you can see how Max is getting the best out of the red RB20, and you can see Checo struggling with the RB20. So Max is doing his own work, Checo is not doing his own work, Checo is struggling. Anything you're not happy with, explain, express yourself to the mechanics, to the engineers, to try and rectify it. You see Max always complaining about very, very little tiny things, understeer, oversteer, brake temperature, and several other things. But we see Checo just not. I know Checo complains, but why is it that his car is not performing? Why is he not performing? Even if he cannot win Max, okay, for example, Max is a better driver, I can't defeat Max. You should be able to compete and thump the other drivers on the track. You should also be, even if you don't win there, just be near in and around that position. And it's clear that he's really, really struggling. Maybe because of the uncertainty of the seats for 2025, that is an issue lingering over his head. We don't know. They might bring Yuki Tsunoda, they might bring Danny Ricciardo to take over the second seat in Red Bull, and that is a question of that is lingering over his head. And we tend to see that if Red Bull do not clinch the constructors' title this season, I'm telling you for sure, Sergio Perez is a gunner from Red Bull.
Of course, they would have to replace him.
Yeah.
I even wanted to find out from you, because the Imola Grand Prix brings back memories of the tragic incident of Ayrton Senna and Ratzenberger. My question was, after about three accidents, two fatalities and three accidents, one to Rubens Barrichello, who almost lost his life too, but ended up with a broken nose. Roland Ratzenberger was killed. They still went ahead with that competition in 1994. Why do you think they did that? And what is the situation now if we had a similar thing happening now? They look away, and because of all the money that's been pumped in, not stop the tournament or go ahead with it. Because I would expect that after one fatality and one very bad accident, they would have thought, I mean, Senna wouldn't have had to race on the 1st of May and lost his life as well. What changes has happened over the years? If it happened now, would it have taken the same direction?
Yes, I think if it had happened now, it won't take the same direction. I think the race should be the race should be suspended. I think one thing that has improved since those ill-fated crashes is I think there's been a little bit of correction and redesign of the track in terms of adjusting certain components of the racetrack to kind of curb and reduce the areas where some of those crashes happened.
At
I
the
think
Cambrella
also
corner,
yes, and I will also see that safety has also quite been improved over the years in Formula One from 94 till 2024. That is a good 20 years. We see that safety features in Formula One has quite improved compared to the past. There's also safety is taken to a very high standard in terms of you can
are
see
you
them
talking about
putting
safety in car design or safety
no,
in competition rules?
in competition rules, car design, as well as track safety. In terms of track safety, you see sand, you see gravel stones, you see then the barricades to shield the car from rolling over. So several safety measures have also been
Put in place.
implemented yeah, over the years in Formula 2 to to confirm driver safety. And the helmet that drivers use this over this period in time was not the kind of helmet they used back then. This one is quite stronger and several other protective gear as a whole. But I think it's just a sad thing that has happened that has blinkered in the sport, and we know that that is not what we want to see, and that is why the FIA takes strict compliance with safety and procedures of the drivers.
You would imagine that with such a driver like Senna, who was so daring and wanted to push the car to the very limits, if something like that happened, you would have imagined that the tournament would have been stopped, but they went ahead. Sometimes money is the reason for some of these things. A lot of sponsors and money is at stake. They just want to finish the thing. And it's
Yeah,
still like
yeah.
that. But like you rightly mentioned, the sports is safer, but it's still like that to a large extent. Money talks, really.
Money talks. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right.
So what are your predictions for Monaco, Biodo, as we round up this show? Will it be same old same? Will Nando Norris bring a surprise again like Miami? What do we expect from Ferrari team and Mercedes? In fact, it is like is looking more like Red Bull 1 and 2. Sorry, Red Bull, then McLaren,
Uh,
and then maybe Ferrari and Mercedes, and then the chasing pack. But what are your predictions for Monaco this weekend? And what kind of track do we have in Monaco? Is it similar to Imola? Are there some unique features that we need to talk about that distinguishes it from other tracks? And what is the weather like, the weather condition? Monaco is in France, I guess.
yes, yes. And the Monaco circuit is the only circuit that is quite different from every other circuit, and very short corners, short curve, not too many straight line speed or straight line curve. Lots of curves and lots of crashes is in between the city of Monaco. The circuit is built in between the city of Monaco. So you see views of houses, skyscrapers, the
Yeah.
sea as well. So it's a quite interesting track, very, very difficult for overtaking. And like we said, some of the projections would be based on the performance of some of the teams from few free practice. I know the teams that will definitely be there is will be Ferrari, McLaren, and the Red Bull definitely. The Monaco Grand Prix is also one track that Fernando Alonso quite loves. He tries to perform very well in Monaco historically, so I see him performing very well in Monaco. You know, he's a very aggressive, rugged driver, and he tends to
Mm. We didn't even
move
talk
within.
about him. What was his position in Imola? Did he finish top
Yeah,
10?
I finished P19, P19.
19. Wow.
Yeah. So I think Hamilton too kind of like Monaco, but I think the drivers tend to feel comfortable in European circuit because of the weather. They are used to the weather. It's not so hot like in Asia, like Qatar and Bahrain. Those ones are killers for them in terms of
Still
um,
of the rainy
weather,
season,
weather
not so hot.
temperature. I think in Europe, they will I think you'll see a better lap time and better performance from both teams. But I think like projections should be the same three. The order of three winners in Imola should be the order of the race result. But let's keep our fingers crossed and see how the cars perform in free practice before our final projections come.
So I agree with you as well. Max, Norris, Leclerc, and maybe Piastri, maybe. So it's been wonderful discussing with you again. Very informed, very technical. You add a lot of value to our Formula One channel. Thanks so much for your time. So
Thank you.
we'll see you later in the week to talk about the next Grand Prix. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Cheers. Stay
Yeah.
safe.
Yeah.